Well, hello and welcome to Super Great Kids Stories, wise tales from storytellers around the world, which will make you laugh and sometimes cry. Recommended for ages 5 to 105. I'm Kim and I love stories. Today's story is called The Witch and the Donkey. It's a funny story from Germany to mark the beginning of our Halloween season. And how are you, super great kids? I hope you had a happy week. One of the things which has made my heart sing recently is all the beautiful pictures you've been sending in. Wow, you really like drawing cats. We've had fat cats, thin cats, cheeky cats, greedy cats, and downright terrifying cats. Just brilliant. Thank you so much. Story Owl and I have loved looking at your imaginative drawings. Another reason to be cheerful is that this weekend I'll be telling stories in a free storytelling event at the Cheltenham Literature Festival. Cheltenham is in the southwest of England, near the Cotswolds. You can find me in the Story Shack on Saturday the 18th and Sunday the 19th of October. I'm telling stories for most of Saturday and Sunday morning. So do come along and join in and say hello. And if you have one of our super great books, do bring it along and I'll sign it for you. Look for more details on our website under News and on our Facebook page. And if you don't live anywhere near Cheltenham but want to see some live storytelling, then you could join our super great online show on Saturday evening with Jason Buck, Amy Douglas and Masako Carey. You only need one ticket per family, which costs £12.50, which is about $16 US and about 23 Canadian dollars. So hopefully we'll meet some more of you this weekend. Hurrah! Just before we begin our story, since we're approaching Halloween, here is a little question for you. If we could say a magic spell and turn you into a Halloween character, I wonder who you'd like to be. Perhaps you'd like to be a witch, like the witch in the Owl Girls story who could turn her granddaughter into an owl. Or would you rather be a ghost, like the ghost of the bloody finger, and float upstairs and through walls, scaring people? Or would you prefer to be a wizard, like the Wizard of Abergavenny, who turns rocks into gold and mutters lots of powerful spells, making puffs of green and purple smoke? Have a think about which Halloween story person you'd like to be, while we have a quick word with the grown-ups. Are you ready? Off you go. Hello, super great kids, I'm back. Who did you decide that you would rather be and why? I think I'd rather be a witch. A good witch, obviously, like the grandmother witch in the Owl Girls. And that's because I would be able to whiz across starry skies and make magic spells to cheer people up and put all the badly behaved and unkind people on a broomstick and send them to the moon. Ooh. And as a witch, I could also have a cuddly black cat to keep me company. As it happens, this week's story is about a witch. Is she good or bad? Well, have a listen and you can decide for yourselves. So, let's give a very warm welcome to storyteller Lucy Lill.
Hello, Super Great Kids Stories listeners. My name's Lucy from London. I've been on here before. I told a story about an old woman and a monster up a hill. It's very nice to be back. Today, I'm going to share a story with you from Germany. And you probably need to know that there's a donkey in this story, but it's also called an ass as well. Don't know if that's going to be helpful to you when you listen. All right, here we go. Once, there was a woodcutter. Now, if you met him, you would think two things. The first thing you would think was, what a lovely young man with a wide open face and a pleasant manner. The second thing you would think would be, I'm not sure he's got the right job. Because this woodcutter, he was so clumsy. He was always tripping over tree roots and bashing his head on branches. And one day, he was in the woods, chopping, because that was his job, and the sun was streaming through the leaves and the birds were twittering in the trees, and he was distracted by a little blue butterfly that flickered past his nose. He turned to look at it. The axe in his hand slipped and cut him on the leg. Now, the young man, he did what any good hero would do. He screamed and fainted at the sight of his own blood. And when he woke up, he felt cool hands on his leg and a voice saying, "Don't worry, I've put some herbs on it to stop the bleeding." He flickered his eyes open, and in front of him was a young woman with a serious face. "You're an angel," he said. "No," she said, and she helped him up. The young woman helped the young man home. And by the time he had hobbled back to his front door, he had fallen completely in love with this serious-looking young woman who knew all about herbs and medicines and seemed very, very clever. And that's not surprising. What is more surprising is that she seemed quite taken with him as well. And soon they were meeting every afternoon in the woods, and quite soon after that, they decided to get married. And these two were blissfully happy. But the young man couldn't help but notice that no one else seemed to be very happy for them. When they walked down the street, arm in arm, people would cross over to the other side to avoid them. Or sometimes he would round a corner and his friends would stop talking straight away, in that way that people do when they've been talking about you. So eventually, the young man couldn't bear it anymore. He took one of his friends to one side and he said, "What is it? Why is no one happy for us? Can't you see we're in love?" Then his friend looked at his shoes and said, "Well, she lives out in the woods, in the deepest part of the deep, dark woods." "Yeah," said the young man, "I know that." His friend said, "Well, she's a herbalist." "Yeah," said the young man, "she's really clever." His friend sighed. She's got that big black cat?" "Yeah, Tibbles, I love Tibbles." "And she's got 2 brooms, but only one of them is for sweeping." "Yeah, she's very house-proud," said the young man. His friend said, "Look, aren't you just a little bit worried that she might be a witch?" "What? No," said the young man. "Of course I'm not worried about that." "Well, look," said his friend. Tonight is the night when all of the witches gather on the mountain to do, witchy things. You could go and watch." "Go and watch," said the young man. "Go and spy on the woman I love. That is outrageous." He would never do that, he told himself as he laced up his hiking boots. He was just going for a nice walk, he said to himself as he marched up the side of the mountain. He just wanted to see the view from the top. What was wrong with that? But he didn't get to the top before the mountain started to shudder and shake a little bit, and he heard noises from the top, loud noises that sounded a little bit like music and people stamping their feet and whooping. So just before he reached the plateau at the top of the mountain, he ducked down and hid behind a boulder. And you will never guess what he saw. The whole of the mountain top was covered with women. Tall women, short women, large women, small women, young women, old women. And they were dancing. They were whooping and hollering, and there was a band. And this band, they had clearly been playing together for a long time. The troll was on keyboard. The skeleton played the drums using his own bones as sticks. There was a demon on the double bass. And in the middle of the circle, he saw the young woman. And for a second, it seemed as though she had seen right through the rock and that her eyes were boring into his. But no, he had been very careful, surely. And then suddenly he couldn't see her anymore at all. She was lost in the crowd of dancers and revellers. And he felt a little tap on the back of his shoulder, and he turned round and oh, there she was. And she did not look happy to see him. She said, "What were you doing? You followed me." He said, "What are you doing dancing on the top of the mountain with all of these women?" She said, "I cannot believe the lack of trust." He said, "I cannot believe that there is a troll playing keyboard." She said, "I should never have trusted you." He said, "Well, I should never have trusted you. I can't believe I am engaged to a witch." She said, "I can't believe I am engaged to an ass." And the man said, "Oh." And the woman clapped her hands in front of her mouth, her eyes as wide as saucers. "Stay here. Don't let them see you." And then she was gone. The young man, who was now, as you had probably guessed from the sound effect, a donkey, put his hooves in front of his eyes because he couldn't bear to look, and he waited. And the party on the mountain, it went on for hours. So much dancing, so much whooping and hollering. But eventually, the sun began to rise in the east, and as the rosy fingers of dawn began to spread over the sky, the band stopped playing with a flourish. There was a crack, a little bit like the sound of an egg when you tap your teaspoon on it, and the young man peeked out from behind his hooves to see a split in the earth. The earth spread apart, the band jumped down into the crack, the earth knitted itself back together, and all the women flew off back to their towns and villages. The mountain was empty, and the young man, who was now a donkey, began to make his way down. It was quite difficult, getting used to having 4 legs instead of 2. He stumbled and tottered and fell quite a few times. He rolled a little bit, and there he was at the bottom. The young woman was waiting for him. They didn't say much for a while. Eventually, she said, "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to turn you into a donkey, but you were being a bit of an ass." The young man said, "Hee-haw," which means, "Yes, I know I was. I'll understand if you don't want to marry me anymore." Hee-haw, which means, "Of course I still want to marry you." "I don't know how to undo the spell," said the young woman. "I'm not in complete control over my magic, to be honest. I think there's one way, but I can't do it myself. You have to get holy water all over you to change you back. And I don't know how we're going to do that." said the young man, which means, "It's a good job it's Sunday then, 'cause we can go to church." So the young donkey and the young woman made their way to the churchyard. Now, it happened that there was a christening on this morning, so the church was packed full of people. People with big hats and fancy dresses. There was a baby wailing right at the front of the church, and the priest in all his robes. They paused for a moment, and then the donkey kicked open the doors of the church, so they banged Everyone turned to look at them. The congregation started screaming and shouting, "There's a donkey in the church!" But the priest was not fazed by this at all. He turned to the donkey. He said, "All are welcome in God's house." The donkey began to eat the floral arrangement, and the priest said, "Did not our Lord ride on the back of a donkey himself?" The donkey began to bray and kick, and the priest, who was red in the face now, the people in the congregation shouting and screaming and crying, the baby wailing even louder, the priest said, "Are we all not dumb animals in the eyes of the Lord?" And the donkey realised that he was going to have to do the worst thing that he could think of. I can barely tell you, listeners. He did a poo right in the middle of the church, and the priest lost it. He gave the screaming baby back to the mother. He picked up with superhuman strength the font of holy water, and he hurled it towards the donkey, screaming, "Get out!" And the donkey, covered from head to toe with water, stumbled out of the church, tripped over a gravestone, knocked his head, and knocked himself out. When he came to, there were cool hands on his head, and a woman's voice saying, "We'll put some arnica on that, it'll stop it bruising." He opened his eyes, and there was the young woman with the serious face. She helped him to his feet. She said, "I don't think I want to be a witch anymore. I just want to be a doctor, really, and help people. That's why I'm interested in all the herbs." And the young man said, "Well, I don't think I'm very good at being a woodcutter either. Maybe I should look for a new job." And arm in arm, in the Sunday morning sun, they walked through the churchyard and towards whatever their lives held for them next.
Oh, thank you very much, Lucy, for that story. Do you think the girl was a good witch or a bad witch? She was very kind to her woodcutter boyfriend most of the time, but she wasn't perfect. It's probably not a good idea to turn your close friend into a donkey. But then, not many of us are perfect. We all have good days and we have bad days. I wonder what you think happened next in the story. Did it end happily ever after? You could ask your grown-ups what they think. Did the girl turn the boy into anything else next time she was cross? And now it's time to fly around the world with Story Owl and say hello and thank you to all the owlets who've recently joined our storytelling club. We start in Turlock in California to greet Owlet Declan, who will soon be 7. And lucky Declan will be in Ireland for Halloween. That's pretty exciting. Look out for the haunted houses and creepy castles while you're there, Declan. His most recent favourite story is The Witch's Stone, and anything that gives him a good laugh. Marvellous. You might have enjoyed this week's story then. East now across the US to Pittsburgh to greet owlets Ava, who is 4, and 3-year-old Ollie, who listen every day on their way to school. Their favourite story is The Cat That Ate the Palace, told by Tim Ralphs. Up now to Milwaukee in Wisconsin on Lake Michigan to say hello to Calvin, who is nearly 5. Calvin also listens on the way to school and when he's getting ready for dinner. He says his favourite story is all of them. Well, that is just lovely, Calvin. Thank you. Glad you're enjoying them. Back across the Atlantic now, and let's fly here to the UK, where Anaya, who is 5, lives in London. Anaya came to our recent live show and drew a picture of the ghost of the bloody finger. She enjoys listening on long drives and particularly enjoyed last week's story, Stargazy Pie. And let's fly back to the US now to Chattanooga in Tennessee, where Silas Pearl, who is 4, lives. His favourite storyteller is Tienen Duyeb, and his favourite story is The Ghost of the Bloody Finger. Maybe you could tell that story to one of your friends or someone in your family, Silas Pearl. Let's go north now to Clarksburg, Ohio, which sits at the edge of the Appalachian foothills, to greet Winnie, who is 7.5 and has been listening since she was 4. She became a member of the Owlets Club thanks to her grandparents. Hurrah for grandparents! Her favourites are the Baba Yaga stories and The Ghost of the Bloody Finger and Eggshell Soup. Good choices, Winnie. And our pick of the week picture is from 5-year-old Nash from Houston in Texas in the US. Nash likes the scary stories best and sent in a marvellous picture of the story Wee Maxie and the Gargoyles. I love your terrifying gargoyles on the church roof, especially that devil with its long scaly tail about to pounce on the little boy. All of your gargoyles are just terrifying. Great imagination, Nash. Thanks for sharing your picture. I hope you'll enjoy the scary stories which we've got coming up for Halloween. Do send us any of your pictures inspired by the witch and the donkey, or if you've drawn pictures of any of the other stories from our podcast, can you send them to our website, supergreatkidsstories.com, or to our Facebook page, facebook.com/supergreatkidsstories. And Story Owl will reply to you and post them. Ooh, 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 ooh. That will get her hooting with delight. And thanks to all of you who are subscribing to our podcast. If you're an Apple subscriber and you'd like a shout out, do contact us on supergreatkidsstories.com. Apple don't supply us with your details, so we rely on you getting in touch with us. We really appreciate all of our owlets who support us on Apple or on Patreon. It helps us to pay our storytellers, and it gives you access to all the Super Great Scary stories and, depending on your level of subscription, to nearly 60 bonus stories. Plus, you'll get access to our Super Great Kids Stories Express, which cuts straight to the story. Great for listening to stories back to back and in the car. Visit our website for more details at supergreatkidsstories.com. Well, that's it for now, except to remind you that if you live in the UK and you'd like to hear me telling Super Great Kids stories for free, then I'll be appearing at the Cheltenham Literature Festival this weekend, the 18th and 19th of October. I'll be telling stories in the Story Shack through most of Saturday and Sunday morning and signing books in Waterstones in between the stories. I look forward to meeting some of you there. And remember to join our online show this Saturday, the 18th of October, with Jason Buck, Amy Douglas and Masako Carey from Japan. The theme is Harvest Stories, and Jason will be telling The Enormous Turnip between 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock UK time, which is GMT +1. Keep telling your stories and singing those songs. Have a happy week. Maybe see you in Cheltenham. Bye for now. Ciao, ciao. This podcast was produced by Kim Normanton and David Smith at Wardour Studios in fabulous Fitzrovia in London.